Incoming priority message.
Hello and good evening from Basecamp 20. And it's so hot. I'm so sweaty. Here we are once again. 2 weeks has passed and we are at Basecamp 20, talkshow and mass jump. And I'm here as usual with Macros. Good evening, Macros.
Hank, how are you today?
As I said, very sweaty. It's so goddamn hot. I'm melting. Even this cold beer doesn't help. Well, it does a little, but not much.
Well, you know what? I read somewhere that drinking cold beverages while you are sweating is actually not such a good idea because it actually makes you hotter because your stomach feels that it's getting some cold stuff in it and it's, oh, I need blood.
Yeah, actually,
Your body does some more work to heat up all that coldness, nice coldness you put in your stomach.
Yeah, actually, funny that you mentioned that because me and the wife had an argument about taking a cold shower. Because she said that when you take a cold shower, your body tries to fight the coldness and tries to heat you more. And if you're sweating, then you will sweat even more because you took the cold shower. And we had this huge argument about it, and I still don't know who is right and who is wrong. But that cold shower still feels so good. But we might have to babble a bit before our tonight's guest gets his voice to work. And tonight's guest is Commander Hanekura Shizuka, but we don't have a voice just yet for him, so we have to wait. So, how's the heat in Denmark, Macros?
Well, I imagine, Hinga, that we are having the same heat as you are because I'm sweating too, and I think right now on our first floor, heat tends to rise. So when we finally getting ready to go to sleep, we go to sleep on our first floor. So all the heat, all the nice heat has been trying to sleep in a very hot space. So
yeah,
and that's I'm sitting next to our bedroom now, so also on the first floor. So it is.
Do you have any kind of?
I have my Dyson fan going on level 4. It can go up to 10, but right now I have it at 4, so I don't hear it so much.
I was about to say that if you are hearing some annoying hum from my sound, it's because there's a fan blowing air behind me. And without it, I would melt to this spot. So it tries to cool me down, but it does its job quite poorly.
Yeah, we have a pretty unusual summer here in Denmark. Next week, they promised us a heat wave.
Yeah,
heat
same
wave
here.
is defined by 4 consecutive days with more than 28 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it's
going to be even hotter for us. Way up to 32 degrees, they said. So.
Yeah, we had a heat record last week. It was 33.4, I think. Somewhere around there. It's like, yeah. But the positive side is that the water in lake temperature is nice also. The lake where my father-in-law's cottage was about 26 Celsius. So it was really nice to swim there and cool off, and kids had fun, and I had fun drinking
26
beer.
degrees.
And I
That's
had
pretty
fun.
hot, Henke.
Yeah, I had fun lying in my small explorer boat and drinking some beer. I did send one pic to the Discord also from last week, so I had fun. It's hot, but I don't complain. We have this thing called winter ahead of us, so I really can't
Do you
complain.
prefer a very hot winter or very cold? I'm sorry, a very hot summer or very, very cold winter?
I like both because they have their pluses and minuses, pros and cons, both. So I like
Question,
winter, but
can you hear me?
oh yes, we can.
Okay. Hello.
Good evening, and this is now our tonight's guest, Commander Hanekura Shizuka. Welcome.
Hello.
Nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
You had some minor technical difficulties.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
It's normal. But good thing that you did get it
Well, look at it this way.
sorted
At least
out.
I don't sound like Wally.
Yeah, well...
So were you planning to sound like Wally?
No.
I take it that you're referring to our Scout stream where
Yes.
Cruento had big problems with his mic, so... Yeah, it was fun. But these things happen every now and then. But good to have you here now.
Well, good to be here.
How about you? Do you have any heat waves? Didn't you live in United States?
Well, where I am right now, not really. In the summer I usually end up splitting time between New York and Texas, and right now I'm in New York, so at this point, not really. No, there isn't much of a heat wave. If I were to be in Texas like I was last month, then it'd be about 100 degrees or so, 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my god.
So yeah.
But since you are in Texas also, you must have get used to the hotness, so...
Yeah. It's... You can only get used to it so much. That said, well, there's a reason why there's air conditioning.
Yeah. But because usually Finnish summer is 2 days sunshine and 20 days rain, this is really unusual here, and we are all dying up here.
One question, how does Finland compare with Denmark when it comes to summers? Because I spent a summer in Denmark about 15 years ago, and it was an unusually hot summer. It was 2003. And what ended up happening was it was raining the first day, and then it was about 80 degrees Fahrenheit for the next 2 months. So,
well, I think Denmark is quite a bit more south than Finland, so I think the summers must be a bit warmer than here.
Yeah, I also think we have a bit warmer weather than Finland, also due to the fact that, well, Denmark is basically totally encompassed by the sea, so I think our summers last a bit longer than the Finnish ones, because, well, when the seawater is being heated up during the summer, then we have the benefit of a better climate for the autumn. So
yeah.
This summer is unusual too. We have had a very long stretch of very good weather, very sunny weather, and not much rain. So, well, thanks.
Yeah, and
because I haven't had to mow my lawn for a while.
There's the difference
it's brown now. It's not green as it usually is, and grows all the time. So.
Yeah, and Finland is quite a long country, so in the south the summer is longer than in the north. So, and vice versa, the winter is longer in the north, so it's a bit different. But yeah, I think we could get down to business and with our guest tonight. And Macros, I think you have the usual stuff for our guest.
I also warned Hanekura about the questions we might be asking.
Okay.
I have the first question for you, Hanekura. Can you tell your commander background? Did we lose Hanekura?
Might be.
I think we lost Hanekura.
We can't hear you anymore. Now,
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay.
Now we can hear.
Okay. Okay, so you were asking about my commander background, I believe? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, something like that.
Okay. The best way to put it is, well, buckyball. That's about the best way to describe pretty much anything and everything I've done in the game. I race. That's about the best way to put it. And it's kind of odd as to why. Keep in mind, it's been a very long Elite is the first MMO that I've played in about 15 years. So, it's one of those cases where, I really don't have that much experience in MMO. That said, what drew me to the game was that, it was basically a procedurally generated galaxy. So you can literally explore for years and not see the same thing twice. Well, a friend of mine, the one who introduced me to the game, he was involved with the A-Star Challenge, the Buckyball Run A-Star.
Yeah.
And, I basically ran numbers for him, numbers per 1,000 light years while he was making his run. And so I got introduced to the racing aspect of Elite pretty much before I was a commander. So when I started playing Elite, of course, everybody starts with a Sidewinder, and you start, doing the things at the beginning. A little bit of trading, a little bit of combat, a little bit of exploration.
Yeah.
But once I was ready, I made my own A-Star run. And, it was okay, I guess. But because I got involved with the Buckyball Run A-Star, I learned how to fly through the galaxy very quickly. And I've learned how to take advantage of that. So I basically have one speed, and it's very fast.
Well, since you said that, I have to ask, how does that speed fit with DECE? Because we have
how
this.
Does it fit with DECE?
Yeah,
Okay,
because we have this 1,000 kilometers per week speed, so you can't really say that we have speed.
I guess the best way to put it is with difficulty. When I signed up for scouting, my thought was to scout for pathways. How to get across Tenebris, for instance, or how to get across the gap between the outer arm and the Scutum Centaurus arm. And so it's been a little bit of a change to look for planets, look for landing sites, and things like that. So
yeah. So it's different.
So like I said, I go fast.
And I believe that you had a little bit of accident last week also.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, the best, as near as I can tell, what happened, first of all, I was foolish enough to go out scouting without shields, and let's face it, that's pretty foolish, and without an SRV. So, I landed on a few planets and got a little bit of damage. And while I was looking at this one particular planet near waypoint 34, I was looking at these canyons and going, I wonder how these look, and tried to fly through them. Well, sometimes flying through canyons is not exactly a wise thing, and I ended up doing damage to my craft. And so I landed, and at that point I had about 25% hull left. And
Ouch.
so I start taking photographs, and it's a beautiful little landing spot. And when I go to take off, well, when I was taking photographs, well, there are two buttons that I don't use that often. One of which is to turn off the text in the free camera, so it's just the photograph and not the text around it.
Yeah.
And the other is whether or not the throttle goes forward or reverse. And off. Okay, am I back on?
Yeah.
You're back
Yeah,
on.
back. Yes.
Okay. At any rate, when I went to take off, well, I took off and used my landing thrusters to get in position, and then I throttled up. And as near as I can tell, instead of throttling up, I went backwards and went straight back into the planet and blew up. So,
Ouch.
Oh my god.
yeah. So live and learn. Just have to be sure about the buttons I'm using.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
But you didn't reach out to support and ask if they would restore you back to where you were. So you flew back.
Yeah, I flew back. Like I said, I've learned to fly fairly quickly, so it took a few days to get back to the edge of the Perseus arm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that you are one of the scouts or one of the scouting team members, and you.
Well, when you had the scouting special, I wasn't exactly that much of a scout. I hadn't done much scouting at that point. I'd basically completed the run, and that was about it.
Yeah.
It was a little bit later that I decided, okay, I might as well see if I can find some landing spots while I'm here.
Yeah.
So.
But it's a good thing that you are with the scouting team now, and we have only 6 more base camps to go after this, and we have to decide if we want to have the final base camp at our final waypoint also, and that's something to discuss about in the future. But that's another story.
That is another story.
Yeah.
So speed, Hanekura. Speed is your thing. And why not pew pew or trading or bubble stuff?
Well, some of it's pride, I guess. Competition. Trying to go as fast as I possibly can. Try to make a name for yourself. There's always that aspect of pride when it comes to what we do with this. In some ways, that's part of why the Dead End Circumnavigation expedition is there, so that we can all say that, hey, we've done a circumnavigation. Not many people can say that. So there is that pride aspect to it, and then there's the fact that, for lack of a better way of putting it, I don't want to waste time. If I want to go somewhere, I want to go somewhere as fast as I possibly can. So if I'm going to, say, the edge of the Perseus arm, I want to get there as fast as possible. If I want to go to Beagle Point, I want to get there as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah. So fan of the recent changes, both the engineering wise, but also the Guardian stuff wise, that can make your ship go faster.
Well, the best way to put it is what happened with regard to my circumnavigation. I was planning to make the circumnavigation without needing an SRV. And before the changes with regard to Jumponium, you could only have about 1,000. You could only have 1,000 materials in your ship.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to calculate how to make this run while using just 1,000 materials, and that's it. And I calculated that I could just barely get it done if I had a jump range of about 66.8 8 light years or better, I think it was. And so I was planning along those lines, and then all of a sudden the Frontier makes its changes, and suddenly the job becomes a lot easier. And so there is that. And I've, and of course, more recently, the Guardian booster. The Guardian booster is just another tool, for lack of a better way of putting it. Now instead of jumping up to 70 light years, we can jump up to 80 light years.
Yep.
Did you?
What do you say? And what do you say to the commanders that say, "Oh, Frontier shouldn't do that because the galaxy gets too small. You don't have the sense of scale. And well, you can get to Sagittarius A in 2.5 hours, or Colonia in 2.5, and to Beagle Point in maybe 7 or 8 hours. So the galaxy dies really." What do you say to those commanders? Corrigan. I think we lost it.
Mm-hmm.
Am I back on?
Yes, you are.
Am I back on?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, you're
good.
back on.
Okay. Well, oddly enough, these are discussions that have occurred for a couple of years now within the Buckyball Racing Club, because we have, within the history of that, there have been some incredible runs. For instance, Commander Alot's run of 7 hours and 56 minutes with an unengineered, no neutron stars or anything, Anaconda. Yeah. And that just shocked everybody when it happened. But now, Commander Alot's been able to race to A-star in less than 2 hours, which is a little bit frightening, but it is what it is. There's this concern that you don't want to lose history, that you don't want these accomplishments to just be forgotten. And so there's that issue. But at the same time, it is nice to be able to go some places that you weren't able to before. So.
Yeah, and even with the Guardian FSD booster, there are still locations that are unattainable to us. So we may be able to reach those destinations. I'm thinking about Cygnus X3.
Cygnus X1?
I think. Is it X1? It could be X1. That are still out of our reach.
Yeah. Well.
Even if we have an 80 light, yeah. Jackie Silver is writing something interesting on Discord. She's writing, Hanekura's planning scares me. And I was about to ask. Very much afraid. I was going to ask you that because you mentioned that you were planning the circumnavigation when we only had the 1,000 materials.
Yes.
So, and does that mean that you planned every single jump, or did you have just longer distances planned without each and every single jump planned for you?
What I did was I had a star near each waypoint that I knew I could get to, and then planned the route from that star to the waypoint. So I knew how much boosting would be needed in order to get to each waypoint, so that I could plan, okay, this jump, takes, 65 light years. This jump takes 80 light years. This jump takes 120 light years. And by putting that into a spreadsheet, and then inputting what the jump range would be, it would then say, okay, you need a basic boost here, you need a standard boost here, you need a premium boost here. And from that could calculate, here's the materials you need, here's how many of each type that you need. I actually posted that spreadsheet on the Circumnavigation trip board within Discord. So that is available, I believe. Well, I posted it first on June 1st, and I posted it more recently, like about 3 or 4 days ago. So if you go back through the archives of the Circumnavigation trip, you can download that.
Ooh. And did that include the Neutron star jumps, or was it without?
There were no neutron star jumps in that, and the reason why is because for most of those edges there weren't any neutron stars. You know, it was your standard, KGB foam stars, if you will. There weren't. I couldn't see any neutron stars to get to those particular locations from the stars that I had planned as a quote-unquote starting point to that waypoint.
Yeah. Well, on that note, there is a thing about the journey from our journey from Beagle Point to our current location, because I realized really late in the planning that journey from Beagle Point to our current destination, or our current location, well, near the fringe, anywhere near the edge of the galaxy. So did was I dived to the -1000 layer where all the neutron stars are, and well, basically neutron star jumped here at our current location. So if one were to do the circumnavigation again using our original map, the map we're following now, then this leg will be much easier, much faster if you use the neutron stars.
Well, yeah, it's neutron star jumping is interesting with regard to one aspect, and that is the damage to the ship.
Yeah.
Now, damage to the ship, it can, if it's, say, if you do this for, say, 10,000 light years or 20,000 light years, you can get through it. But to do it on a trip of, say, 300, 400,000 light years, then it gets kind of difficult. With my circumnavigation, there were some parts where I used neutron star jumping to get through it. Why I eventually stopped doing that was because it was doing so much damage to the ship. It was to the point where near the end of the trip, I was almost running out of AFMUs, basically, in order to fix the ship. I didn't have that many left when I finished the circumnavigation. So it's something to take into account when it comes to something like that. Then again, I guess nowadays you can refill the AFMUs. I think there's some materials that you can use to do that. But
absolutely, you can use Synth to replenish your FMU, and it's fairly common materials. You need nickel, zinc. I've just looked it up now on my ship, chromium, vanadium. So it's pretty fairly standard stuff. And what I prefer to do, if I do long stretches of neutron star jumping, then I prefer to load up with the premium boost, so you get the 100% bonus repair speed. So long, so. And obviously that takes more materials to do: zinc, chromium, vanadium, zirconium, tellurium, and roof.
By the way, coming back to this current location, I have to give credits to Commander Arnoldo, who scouted this location. I think this is magnificent. We have this nebula
cool.
And gas giant and 2 planets just next to us. Oh my god, this is really
location
nice.
on the base camp, for the base camp itself, and we are now, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this our first nebula for the circumnavigation?
Yeah, I think it is. But
I don't think I can remember any other nebulas we have run into.
Well, how many nebulas are around the edge of the galaxy?
There's not
Yeah, I
many.
haven't been able to find all that many.
I don't think there's a lot. I found a. I don't know what I found, but because when we were in the southern part of the galaxy, I found what I think was a blue galaxy, but obviously that's not a nebula. But somebody, I think it was all ITNL that it could be a nebula, but it didn't look like a nebula to me, and I still haven't found out what that blue galaxy is really. So yeah, I think this is the first one for the circumnavigation.
Yeah, I think so too. But this is nice. This is really nice location. So, props to Commander Arnoldo who found this.
Yeah, props to our scouts. The scouts have done an awesome job on the circumnavigation. We could have made the trip without them, Henka.
Yeah, we have our moments.
Yeah, you do. Hanekura, I also things I didn't include. Speaking of things I didn't include in the circumnavigation, was the fact that I didn't include Arm's End into the trip.
And that would have made my journey a little bit more difficult. I tried to, after the circumnavigation was done, I tried to go to Arm's End and got about halfway there and then blew up an SRV and decided to go back. And at that point, well, I decided, okay, I might as well scout while I'm back, and, well, you know the rest. But yes, it would have been, I think it would have been about 50 jumps, 50 boosts to get to Arm's End. So, yeah, it would have made things.
I think we lost Hanekura again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, am I here? Am I here?
Oh no!
Yes.
No, you're not. You're there.
Well, yeah, it's weird. What I'm having to do is turn off my headset and turn it back on again, about every 10 minutes or so, apparently.
That's odd.
So, fortunately, I can tell when it's turned off because I can hear, when it's turned off. So I at least have that warning. So if I cut out for a few seconds, you understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but Hanekura, are you prepared to do navigation if we change the route a bit? Make it more, say, extreme?
Oh dear, well, keep in mind there's a difference between a solo circumnavigation and an expedition. With an expedition, you have to make sure that everyone is able to reach each and every point, or at least as close to it as possible.
Yeah, most.
So an extreme version of, well, in many ways, the circumnavigation expedition is extreme enough. I mean, think about what the success rate of this particular expedition is going to be. It's probably going to be how many people are still involved with it? I think we started with about 150, 160 people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think let's see. Started with 151 participants and 20 commanders have been successful, according to EDSM.
Yeah, and according to
when I look at the participants now, I think the number we are right now at this base camp is, I think that's a fairly good estimate of how many commanders there's left. I think we may have 10 or 12 commanders that are here now that may be included because they are not here because of real life or time zones or whatever. So I think
around 1/3 is still with us.
One question, and someone who is involved with it could probably answer this better. What was the success rate with regard to distant worlds when it was going on?
About 1/3.
About 1/3? Okay.
No, Henka, it was much bigger because
Was it? Really?
I think Erimus wrote about it not so long ago.
Was it
In
more?
the 60 or 70, 60 and the 70% success
Oh.
rates for the distant worlds. I think there were a lot of commanders that took their sweet time getting back from Beagle Point, but I think it was 60 or 70% success rate. So that is a lot of commanders.
Of course, I do wonder what an extreme version of of a circumnavigation would be. Yes, you'd have arm's end. I wonder what else would be involved with that, though.
We would be moving much closer to the edge than we have been doing now. Obviously, well, the waypoints I chose was primarily the ones from EDSM and with great input from Gomon and All IT Nil and yourself. Made some pretty good suggestions as to the waypoints, but I don't think all of the waypoints were placed as far out on the edge as they could have been. And with that being said,
so there's an expert mode.
An expert mode. With that being said, nobody is preventing anyone from just basically turning up at the waypoints and base camps as they've done now. Nothing is preventing you from going out on the edge. But that being said, to come back to the waypoints or the base camps that are placed further inside the edges and not so far out, well, that is an inconvenience, I think. Extreme Edition would place all waypoints and all base camps very near the very edge of the galaxy.
Well, here's an interesting question for you. Where would you put the waypoint?
Oh, you went offline again.
Now that's timing. Okay, so here's the question: where would you put the waypoint in Tenebris? The reason why I ask this is because, well, that Sanokie waypoint that is waypoint 33. It's going to be interesting for commanders to get to. It was difficult. It was one of the major challenges when it came to planning my circumnavigation. How to get to that particular location, because it's fairly deep within that gap. So everybody who's listening, you now have fair warning. It's going to be difficult to get to waypoint 33, just so you know. But I do wonder where the waypoint would be in an expert mode, if you will, an extreme mode, if we were to do a circumnavigation.
The extreme mode will be in DECE 2. Wink, wink.
Yeah, I will. And I'm looking right now at Tsunuki MXL D7, and I see that there are stars further north of that actual waypoint. So we
I suspect
can
there
go
are, but
up the gap. But you should mention that, because getting to the Tenebris is depending on your jump range, is pretty easy. It's just a question of how far south you are prepared to go. South, and the crossing will be easy, right?
Well, I've crossed that twice now, and it wasn't easy in either case. I think the first time I crossed it, I had about a 55 light-year jump range, and it wasn't easy. And the second time I crossed it, it was about 70 light-years jump range, and it wasn't easy then either. So it's a challenge. It is a challenge.
Oh my god.
Yes, Henka.
Commander Chop is only 75 light years away, and he was... Jesus Christ, he made really... He was like 4,000 light years away a couple of hours ago, and now he's here.
He's
almost,
been
so-
really junking along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a small story to KMXLD7 because when we were moving down to this base camp, I looked up some of the waypoints and I looked at this waypoint. So I didn't have a red icon on the system map. Means that I have been here before. Choose. And I said to myself, oh, wait, have I mixed up the... But it turns out that prior to the expedition itself, I've done some scouting. Scouting of the waypoints I've been looking up on EDSM, and has very good inputs from you guys. So I took this commander on a scouting expedition, and I don't remember this waypoint as particularly difficult to reach. Obviously, I was waypoint from the south and not from the north as we are doing now. So there is that fact that could have made it easier. And I think at that time I was flying in a 60 light years Anaconda, I think. But then again, years, then I don't think this will be a problem.
Again, I must stress the fact that if there will be DC2, it will be a lot demanding than DC, because I think that many waypoints could have been way more at the edges of the galaxy.
Well, of course, if we're going to be having difficulty levels, we could have an easy level, one where it's possible for, say, a 50 light year ship to make it without any Jumponian. Have a normal level, which is probably what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually planning the trip twice, Hanekura.
But
in effect, that would be 2 circumnavigation trips, 2 circumnavigation expeditions.
And with the challenging DC2...
I've done 2 circumnavigation expeditions already, so whatever.
That's nice.
Very nice.
Oh, just
Hanekura, I'm curious. You're in your ship now.
What's that?
No.
Am I here? Okay. What was that?
Are you in your ship now?
No, I'm not logged in at the moment. So.
Then I was going to ask you to look up your statistics and tell us your
Well, I think give me a minute. I can do that. I know in terms of the total number of light years that I've gone, I'm just over 2.75 million. And as for jumps, as for locations that I've gone to, I think it's somewhere between 50 and 60,000. I'm just not sure where.
By the way,
yeah,
just for the record, when I say DC2 should be more demanding, I not mean that everyone should have anacondas, 80-lighter anacondas.
Well, Penny Umbra apparently wants to use a beluga, so.
But you can get beluga to jump like 50 light years now, I think.
Oh yeah, especially with the Guardian booster now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will not be in my T10 with DC2.
Good. No, DC2 will be much more challenging. will include arms and
Well,
and,
I think it should be.
and this stretch we've done from Beagle Point to will be at the very edge. Actually, the whole trip will be at the very edge of the
Yeah,
galaxy.
in any case, it should be demanding. We can't do the same trip twice.
No, we can't do that. DC2 actually comes to fruition.
It's nice to see that someone still has fighters along, because I haven't had a fighter since I dropped my Anaconda back to the bubble.
Started with a fighter, but I changed my outfit to ditch the fighter.
I think that's called Kassad's fighter, which is flying around here.
Yeah. Kura, that was question number 1, commander background.
And we're only 47 minutes
Question
in.
number 2, what made you join the DCE?
What made me join the expedition? Well, something to do. I wasn't expecting to race the expedition until December. At that point, it's like, when over the summer, it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? I'd done a lot at that point and hadn't quite figured out what to do. So I figured, this sounds like fun. So I decided to join. And if you want my statistics, systems visited 55,511, total hyperspace distance 2,752,860, and total hyperspace jumps a little over 60,000. Approximate time played 11 weeks, 6 days, 1 hour, 15 minutes. So that's this is frankly, if you look at, say, a Litnal or Chiggy von Richthofen, I mean, this is nothing. I mean, this is just a blip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't call a trip to the Andromeda Galaxy a blip. That's 2.5, right? so actually past Andromeda.
And we have Commander Chop here also. That was
he
nice
made it.
yeah,
Excellent.
he's here. It's really nice to see all these commanders still with us after 9 months. And hold on, I have to do this one thing. 35 million light years, I think.
Hanekura, you changed your goals while you were doing the expedition.
Yes.
Speed run of the circumnavigation.
Yeah.
And your original goal for joining the expedition was, well, what should I do now? And this was basically for passing time.
Yeah.
So what made you change your mind and doing a speed run of the circumnavigation?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I know it was somewhere around December, and just, I think, seeing the possibility. Well, a couple of things actually. First was before. Well, at one point I did hold the record with regard to the how fast a person could actually perform the circumnavigation. It used to be that the record was in hundreds of days, and my first circumnavigation was in about 36 days. And then I started hearing reports of people who'd done it in 16 days and done it in 12 days. I'm not sure what the record was at that point. And, well, there is a smatter of pride. And so, I went through several of the waypoints and ended up having to go back to the bubble a couple of times over the course of the fall and winter of last year. And, you start thinking, could I race this? How would I race this? And at that point, you start planning. and you start figuring out, okay, is it possible to, race this without needing an SRV? Because, if you're going to have to stop for materials, well, that's time wasted, because once you start, the clock starts, right? Once you leave the initial, once you leave that starting point, at that point the clock begins. And so, I started planning, okay, could this be done without having to stop and mine for materials? And, well, like I said, so it is a matter of pride. If you ask any of the buckyballers who've had some success, there is some pride involved with what they do. And having that circumnavigation record, and I, when it took 36 days, I didn't think anybody would do it faster than that. And so there was this matter of pride of getting that back.
Yeah. Well, if I remember correctly, then when we started this expedition initially in October, we had one commander, wasn't it Commander Ruckus?
Yeah.
Circumnavigation really, really quick, I think.
Yep.
It's 2 weeks.
Was it 10 days?
Yeah, something like that. Just under 2 weeks.
And I thought, oh dear, he must have been doing this in one stretch, even sleeping. I must have thought, okay, he must have taken some shortcuts, but then I took a look at his stats on EDSM and I saw the jumps he made. Fair,
It was
good
nuts.
enough. The systems I looked at, well, so that was really, really awesome.
Yeah, it was. It's just, well, like I said, sometimes it's a matter of pride.
Yeah. But then again, your trip, Hanekura, your speed trip on the circumnavigation, that was also a very, very, very awesome accomplishment. And you did it in how many days?
7.5, basically. 7 days, 13 hours, and a few minutes.
Oh my god.
That is unbelievable.
Even if I wouldn't have kids, even if I wouldn't have a job, even if I would want to do that, I couldn't. I just couldn't do that.
Well, in some way, sometimes it's a matter of timing. The race, if you will, doing the circumnavigation in 7.5 days. That was my second attempt to do it that fast. Given my schedule, there were 2 opportunities to do this. One was in early March, the other was in late May. And I attempted it in early March. I raced for 1 day. And the second morning after flying all day, it's like, oh, do I really want to do this? And I just wasn't ready at that time. And so I, sort of slunk back to the bubble and just sort of waited there for a couple of months. And then in late May, I tried again. And at that point I was ready. And, after you get, the toughest part of a circumnavigation like this is after the first day. Because the first day, you're racing and you get all that done. But then you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, and the exhaustion from the first day sets in. And it's getting the energy to get up out of bed, to get racing again. That's the difficult part. Because after the first day, day 2, day 3, day 4, at that point, sunk costs are there. You've already raced this amount, so you're not going to stop. But that first day, after that first day, that's the difficult part.
Yeah.
That's because you realize that you really have to do that. You can't back down anymore. That's when you realize that Oh man, I really have to do this.
Yeah, especially if you are careless enough to announce it anywhere. Then you
Yes,
can do it.
and well, I was careless enough to announce it in March. I was a little more circumspect in May. I was, for lack of a better way of putting it, I was more reserved when it came to what I was announcing in May. I didn't really announce what I was doing in May until about day 2 or day 3. Because at that point you realize, okay, I'm involved with this, I'm going to see it through. But until that point, you don't make that announcement.
I saw your logs. So,
yeah.
Great logs, by the way.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure reading them.
So there's 3 minutes until our mast jump. So it's time for the final questions, I think.
I think we'll settle for one last question. Well, in fact, that's not a question at all. Do you wish to say anything to our fellow commanders, Hanekura?
Oh, well, enjoy the ride. That's the best way to put it. When you are traveling on something like this, when you're going on something like this, you do it because you enjoy it, because there's something that you want to do here. And I think to be able to say that you circumnavigated the galaxy, there aren't that many people who can say that. So while you're here, well, for one thing, enjoy the view, because the view at the end of the galaxy is always it's a nice one. On one side you have the galaxy in all its glory, this bright, mass of stars, and at the other end you have nothing, blackness, darkness, and that's something that you really don't see if you stay in the bubble.
Yeah.
So while you're here, enjoy the view and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. We will.
Thank you for those.
Thank you, Commander Hanekura, for joining us at the DECE talk show. It was nice having you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you very much. And my game just froze.
Oh no.
Oh, one question. Was that due to the jump, I'm guessing? Or the attempt at it?
Yeah, I was.
Because I'm guessing the jump is probably going to happen in a few seconds here, right?
Yeah.
I was charging my FSD and my game froze.
Well, I think we are ready to go soon, so... Next stop is Basecamp 21, which will be announced later.
Get into the instance, damn it.
Yeah, I can't see your ship anymore.
I see Commander Taz, but he must have...
But it's 22 hours, and let's go.
Jump, jump, jump.
Oh man, camera, what are you doing? Nice, nice. Oh, the nice colors. Fits so nicely with the nebula at the background.
I think it was because we were more commanders than we used to be.
Yeah, we haven't had that many commanders for a long time, I think. Last time I think it was at Beagle Point.
Oh,
but yeah,
I had my net locks on, so they may be able to reveal something to Frontier.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Hopefully. But it was nice participant. Oh, I can't jump there, I need boost.
Nice photo.
I need boost. But yeah, I think we will wrap up here. This was Basecamp 20 talk show with Commander Hanekura, Shizuka, and Basecamp 20 mass jump, which was nice. And Commander Arnoldo was the founder of this Basecamp, so all the glory to him. This was a magnificent location.
To the scouts.
Yeah, to the scouts. And we will see you again in 2 weeks with the new guest and with the new Basecamp, which will be announced, I think, hopefully next week. I have no information about that because I haven't been away also, spending some real life. But the Basecamp 21 will be announced next week, hopefully. And this is DECE talkshow signing off. Fly safe, Commanders.
Okay, well, have fun, everybody.
Bye bye.